Good to have you back. Here it is, 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. So much to get to here on the show. With the draft coming up tomorrow, we will be at Coach's Corner on Victory Drive in Thunderbolt Bend Troop. Looking forward to having some fun there leading up to the draft. We're going to have a nice contest. You pick the top 10 picks along with us. Whoever gets the most right, going to win a 70-inch flat screen television there from Coach's Corner. We'll talk draft today. Emery Hunt, football game plan, will join us here in hour number one. We'll talk a little Braves baseball. Fred Owens from Tomahawk Take will join us coming up in hour number two. But Ben, the draft is tomorrow. I know we've asked you a lot about your draft experience and things of that nature. But I mean, if you're getting invited to the draft right now, you're in Las Vegas. It's a fun town to be in. It's the day before what's going to be the biggest day of your life at this point. I would imagine outside of having a kid or whether this is setting your career path on track in some way, shape, or form 24 hours from now.
Yeah, Kevin, and you hope that it goes as planned. I mean, I know we'll get into it more in the show, but the spectacle that is known as the draft, it's so much build up. I mean, because it comes down to, Kevin, is it my game tape? Is it my height? Is it my genetics? Is it my combine? Is it my pro day? Is it how I interview? Is it my social media? Because that's another thing too. Is it how I tweet? Everything about me is being scrutinized. Everything. How I respond, how I look at people. The same thing we say, like, how we go from Kevin talking about the game on the field to, I don't know, man, just something about it. Like every time I look at him, like, what do you mean? Like, so, but if you did get invited to Vegas, I hope that it goes your way. Why? Because everybody goes back to Aaron Rodgers, arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play, sitting in the green room, pick 24, 25. And I'm like, look, man, last time I checked, you grow up and you want to play and you want to be from that to, I want to go number one overall. We'll see. We'll see what happens, Kevin, man. But for my money, I think at the end of the day, it's going to more than live up to the billing. The University of Georgia will be the headliners from day one to day three. But I want to see how many of them Georgia Bulldogs are going to be going in round one.
That is huge. Javon Walker, number one pick in that draft. What does that do for a school? What does that do for a university when you can say, look, out of everybody, guy from our school went number one?
It's prestigious, Kevin. How many schools? Listen, I went to the University of Florida. I don't think Florida's ever had a number one overall pick. I think Dante Fowler Jr. and Gerard Warren both went number 3 overall. So it's prestigious. And Kevin, once again, it goes back to what I be saying. I know it's about the national championship, right? I know. But how many teams can really win that? 8? Maybe 9? And Georgia's obviously one of those teams. It's about the draft. That's perception. It's about recruiting. That's perception. And it's about the brand. Well, Georgia's winning on all three fronts, so you already know, Kevin, Kirby Smart is out there on the recruiting trail with that big old gigantic boulder on his finger that got national champs on it. Now he get to say, hey, man, you come to Georgia, you got a chance to potentially be the number 1 overall pick. And I just think that with all the headliners, Kevin, when you think about Jordan Davis and N'Kobe Dean and George Pickens and Scene and White, and it just list goes on. Javon Walker got a chance to be number 1 overall, not a quarterback, right? An interior defensive line, not even an outside pass rusher. So the University of Georgia is winning, Kevin. Listen, they claimed the Super Bowl because, Matthew Stafford won that. They claiming the Braves World Series champ because they in the state of Georgia. Now they claiming the draft. They get the number 1 overall pick. I mean, all eyes will be on Vegas and in Athens because I think the University of Georgia, they're gonna be on full display starting tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch how that certainly unfolds. It looks like the Jags are going to go Trayvon Walker. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a little bit. I mean, it could be Aiden Hutchinson, but it seems in the last 3 or 4 days, a lot of momentum has shifted towards the Jags drafting Trayvon Walker. Falcons still sitting there at 8. You hear, again, who knows at this point what is to be believed and what is to be not believed, but you hear all about, could Evan Neal slide to 8? Could Kyle Hamilton slide to 8? The Falcons are sitting there. Could Kayvon Thibodeau? Now it seems like maybe he won't slide to 8, but who's going to be there at 8 for the Falcons to potentially take that maybe a week ago you were saying, probably not going to make it that far?
I mean, Kevin, nothing is out of the realm of possibility. I mean, you talk about Kayvon Thibodeau, who knows? I mean, is Evan Neal there? I'm just saying it's one of these quarterbacks that you coveted. Is Kyle Hamilton there? I mean, because I've heard him sliding a lot. And the thing about the Falcons is Terry Fontenot sitting next to Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith always got this like super duper puzzled, shocked look on his face, like all the time. Like that just is.
But Ben, you've said quarterback a couple times. Who would have to be gone from the board for you to make that move? Because I think you have said there's a couple of guys that you'd be willing to stick for. If not, try your best to trade back. I know quarterback is a possibility, and you and other people have said if it's the guy you like, get him, even if he sits, because Marcus Mariota may play you out of this situation in 2023's draft. But who would have to be gone for you to go quarterback at 8? I mean, if Evan Neal or Kyle Hamilton or one of those guys is sitting there, I would have a hard time passing on one of them to get a quarterback who's not going to play right now, not going to help me win right now, and maybe that's short-sighted, and the draft grade is probably not as good as any of the top 3 quarterbacks for next year's draft. Who would have to be gone for you to make a call to say quarterback at 8?
All those guys, Kayvon Thibodeau got to be gone. Evan Neal got to be gone. Kyle Hamilton got to be gone. Aiden Hutchinson got to be gone. Javon Walker got to be gone because these are the top tier players. Now, people gonna say, they need a receiver. Yeah, but it's deep. This receiving class is deep, right? And do that receiver help you right now? Maybe. I just think for me, Kevin, if Thibodeau isn't there, if Evan Neal isn't there, if Kyle, Hamilton isn't there, maybe even a Sauce Gardner is not there, you go quarterback right there because it makes logical sense when you're saying, look, I'm counting 3 quarterbacks next year that's supposed to be really, really good. Well, Atlanta is picking 8th this year. So what's the probability they're going to be in that top 5? Probably not, because Kevin, you got to win the perception battle of we're not just throwing in the tank. We're an organization that's trying to get back to winning. Well, really, they can't throw in the tank because what do you got in Arthur Smith? He gonna have to that return on investment gonna have to start showing in 2022. So they're probably not going to be in the top 5. So that gets you out the quarterback sweepstakes. You don't want a guy like Baker Mayfield. You don't want a guy like Kyler Murray. So that might take you out the veteran sweepstakes. So it's looking more and more like a quarterback could potentially go. Now, who that quarterback is, Kevin, you got to live with that decision because we think Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis. Well, I get it, but it's a Desmond Ridder, it's a Sam Howell, it's a Matt Corral, right? I just think that for me, Terry Fontenot, they brought you in to make this decision. If those guys we talk about are gone, if he goes quarterback, nobody's going to bat an eye because while they're going to be saying they just got Marcus Mariota, you know how it is, Kevin. Walking away from the draft, you want to feel like you got better on paper. And if you get a quarterback, man, it definitely gives the assumption that Atlanta is definitely trying to go all in. Maybe not in 2022, but maybe like down the line.
Yeah, again, I think there would have to be a lot missing for me to go quarterback if I'm Atlanta, because I know people come back, but if you need a quarterback, you got to get one. No, you don't. Not, especially not if you're not sold on those guys. And to me, I don't know why. I guess it's because it's scared of being wrong or whatever, but nobody's going to fault you in the moment of saying, look, we didn't feel that any of these guys were going to make us better right now. We wanted to improve our club in other ways. And if they turn out, Malik Willis turns out to be an all-pro Hall of Famer, well, whoops, you won't be the first team to make a mistake, and you won't be the last team to make a mistake. I just, to me, given what you think and assume about next year's quarterback class, don't talk yourself into taking a quarterback just because you think you have to have one right now. Because, again, Ben, I kind of akin quarterbacks to people not trusting their draft board, where you come out and you're like, a couple of years ago, who was it that we always go to? It was coming out of Florida State. Who was it? Yeah.
Christian Potter and Manuel, both of them.
Right, yeah. Christian Potter, Jake Locker, all those guys. And they're like, man, these guys are like second round. I know, but we got to have a quarterback. Do you feel like they're franchise quarterback? Well, we got to have a quarterback. Well, you just took a guy in a first round that you probably didn't believe was going to be a franchise quarterback, and you had a second or third round grade on, under the premise of you needed a quarterback. Well, you got one you didn't want. You got one that you didn't think was good enough to be that. So if I'm Atlanta, don't go reaching for a quarterback, especially when you might have 2 or 3 chances to get one that's better than any of these guys in this year's draft. I know that's a heck of a gamble, and people say that's like you said, are you going to be in the top 10? You certainly hope not, but to me, I just don't see drafting a quarterback who you don't feel strongly about just because you need one.
Yeah, I agree with that too, Kevin, because the thing is, I want to be sold. I want to be first round picks. No. All these first round picks, I got to be all in. I got to be sold on. I wanted this guy, not I got this guy because I couldn't get that guy, or this guy failed to us. We got the guy that we covered. This is the guy we wanted, because you don't want to be coming to you don't want to be coming to these press conferences if you Arthur Smith or Terry Fontenot saying, well, he was a guy that we definitely think can fit in with our ball club. This was a guy that we think can help us win. This is the guy that we feel as though can help us get back to that. Because, replacing Matty Ice, I'm sorry, people, that is about as good as a production as you're going to have both individually and collectively. So I do agree, Kevin. Don't get a quarterback because we need one. You got one. His name is Marcus Mariota. That's who you got. Now, if you talking about one, now, are these guys in this year's draft better than next year? No. But you can do that every other year when you talk about these quarterbacks. I'll give you 2 names, right? RG3, Robert Griffin III, right? Andrew Luck. Where are they? These guys were supposed to be, both of them gone, right? I give you 2 more names, Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. They are fighting for their football lives in the same division with the Saints and the Falcons. So I know we forget all this stuff that Mel Kiper say as soon as he say it, but there is no such thing as a can't miss. Oh, you can swing and miss every single time when you talk about these players. What was it, Kevin? A 33% success rate in the first round. 33%. You better hope you're a part of that 33. Probably not. But only time will tell.
Yeah, odds are that you're not going to be. We'll chat with Emory Hunt, football game plan, about some of that coming up in just a little bit, but more on the draft, man. It's going to be a party in Vegas. We'll get to that when we return. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here, 3 and Out on this Wednesday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you are with us. Thanks for making us a part of your day. You can catch us streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com on your mobile device, ESPN app, also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Tomorrow, Ben, we're going to be out at Coach's Corner getting ready for the draft, have a little draft party of our own, but certainly in Vegas, man, this has been a interesting kind of route for the NFL draft, because when you boil it down, Ben, this is a selection of college players for where they're going to apply their trade. So it's guys standing on the podium going, and with the third pick, Steve Jones is going to the Texans. The NFL has managed to turn this into a party and a 3-day event. I mean, at its core, it's very simple, but it's now a made for TV event. Even in the pandemic, when people couldn't come and get together, they turned it into like a party type thing where, Roger Goodell's sitting there eating M&Ms in his living room going, and with the third pick. I mean, how did we get here with the draft where something as simple as picking players turned into a huge party where now it's in Vegas and it's inside and outside now?
Yeah.
Not just inside, it's outside too.
I mean, Kevin, that's what happened, right? When you got the best brand in America, right? When you got the best brand in America, and what is that? That is football. Football is the best brand in America. Then you start talking about college football. Okay. Then you start talking about SEC football. Okay. Then you start talking about ACC. And I think the prestige of it, Kevin, is the fact that some of these players are really, really good coming straight out of college to pro. People are really thinking, I'm a Joe Burrow away, right? I'm a Bosa brother away. I right now it's just, the two Bosa brothers. I don't know if it's another one. If it is, somewhere he's out there, pushing cows around, getting in Ohio or South Florida, that is. Both of the boys from South Florida. So I think, Kevin, when you think about what the draft has become, it's an event. And it's something for everybody, right? Like you just said, it's something for everybody. When the draft really took off is when they started taking it away from New York, because they knew, okay, if we're not going to be in New York, right, and we ain't going to have the guys, Avenue of America's, Radio City Music Hall, taking pictures with their suits on, what is it going to be? We got to make it an event, because Philly, Dallas, they've had it, they got it in Vegas, they've had it in Nashville. Nashville, Tennessee in 2019 was a treat, because when I was there back in 2004, I never ever thought that the draft would come to Nashville. And somebody's saying, yeah, man, it's 200,000 people downtown. What? Like, yeah, it's 200,000 people down there. So I think, Kevin, what it has become is, look, you got the red carpet. I saw D'Angelo Williams, former running back for the Carolina Panthers, and Vince Wilfork. They out there doing like they fashionistas, asking guys what they wearing. And I'm telling you, money talks, people. That's what this really comes down to. These TV networks know you're going to have a lot of fans and people that just like football watching a bunch of Roger Goodell, guaranteed to get booed. He's embracing that. Then when you think about all these different fan bases that really want to know who's going to be the next edition, yes, Kevin, it has become an event. And dare I say, I remember when it was 2 days. Back when I got drafted, it was 2 days. First, second, and third round on one day, fourth, 4, 5, 6, and 7 on the next day. Now it's 3 days, Kevin. I'm telling you, we itching towards draft week to where it's going to be wall-to-wall coverage. Because what they do now too, Kevin, is after Roger Goodell announced the first round, second round through 7, it could be anybody. It could be anybody coming up to that freaking podium saying, "Hey, man, with the now I know one person that shouldn't be allowed back on that podium. I love you. I ain't gonna call you out, but they gave you one shot." And you messed up that boy's name. You know who I'm talking about. I love you. But I'm just saying, Kevin, yes, it is an event. And dare I say,
his name, Ben. I mean, come on.
VY the legend. Come on, man. I mean, I love you, VY. But that was too much pressure. It was one of those things where, Kevin, if you at the Academy Awards, they don't tell you who won it. You really got to open up that envelope and hope you can pronounce that thing. But
I was going to say, Ben, see, he got Harold Landry, which is why people give him so much grief. Like my luck, it would be like, "Hey, man, here you go. Who is this? Oh, you got TJ Hushmanzada." What?
Or
I'm going to say this in 10 seconds.
Oh my God! You got DJ Uangale, you got Tua Tagovailoa, you got Henry To'oTo'o. It's like, look, man. Hey, listen.
Who's our tight end for Maryland that we had on?
What's his name, man? Albert Okewanan. I can't even. Then this year you got Chigo William, the tight end for Maryland. Listen, and that's the thing, Kevin. You'll be like, okay, I'm finally feeling announced. Kevin Thomas, I'm here talking about my bowl game, and you know what it is, bowl game. You know what it is. And then Kevin wants you to announce. And the Titans select tight end out of Maryland. What is this? Because you can't.
Well, no, but it's different if you're like Mel Kiper. Somebody's like, you've been studying the draft. It's another thing if you're like, hey, Vince Young, you're representing the Titans. We're going to let you announce the pick. You literally, I'm not saying, but Ben, if the Titans came to you, it's like, Ben, as a former pick of the Titans, we want you to announce the pick. Okay, cool. That would be awesome. I'll be at the draft announcing the pick. You have no idea who it is.
You don't.
You don't know who it's going to be. I mean, they give it to you like, hey, in 30 seconds, you're going to go read this. Oh, boy. That's all I'm saying is like, there would be, like, if I didn't get like somebody Smith or Jones or something, like, I might be
them regular names. I want a John Smith. I want a Pat Johnson. No, Kevin, I'm gonna get Paul Leslie out of Penn State. Look, man, at the end of the day,
Ben, it's not just the pressure of saying a guy's name on national television that you don't know necessarily who it's going to be. So it could be anybody with any, form of the alphabet as the last name you don't know. But you're going out there on stage to read that, and it's like the biggest day of that young man's life. So it's like, with the second pick, TJ Houshmandzode. Like, yeah.
TJ Houshmandzode. It's almost like Kevin, But think about this, Kevin. Look, people have done things their whole life, rooting for people, rooting for fans, and this is your moment. Kevin Thomas, what? This is your moment. You get to announce the 8th overall pick for them Falcons. All right. And then listen, Desmond Ridder. It seems easy enough, but in the heat of the moment, it don't look. I'm like, what is that?
You call him Damon or something? Damon Ridder.
Think about this though. And Harold Landry just signed a contract extension with the Titans, right? And he always gonna be remembered for. Who announced you? Vince Young. What did he say? He called me Honor. What? He said Honor Landry. Because when people ask, Kevin, when people ask, hey man, why don't everybody host award shows? Because you gotta know how to read that teleprompter, and it's moving, right? Excuse me. And
I would say this: it's like sporting would be hard again because you have names of people from all over, and again, you don't know what you're going to get.
No.
If you go to the movies, like, okay, at least I know that this is going to be Tom Hanks or what have you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying because his name's easy to pronounce. I'm saying like, who's in the movies.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm doing the draft, I have no idea who the next name is going to be, especially when you get in like the 3rd or 4th round. It could be anybody.
Whoa. And we listen. Think about the people who if they was in the first round, like I said, this year we're gonna switch it up. This is the remix. Roger Goodell is not announcing the pick. We're gonna get somebody to announce the pick. Kayvon Thibodeau finna test somebody up. Thibodeau, that last name is guaranteed, Kevin, to test somebody. And the only reason why we know how to say it, because we've been saying it for like 4 years. Thibodeau. Got it. Now, if somebody put Thibodeau in front of you, Kevin, and you had to spell it, you're gonna be like, wait. What you mean it ends with an X? Yeah.
I know. I'd be telling them, hey, I'm gonna need you to read this aloud to me a couple of times before I go out.
Kevin, think about this. You go from excitement to pure fear. All right, Kevin, you up next with the 8th overall pick, the 2022 NFL draft.
That dude from Oregon.
It's that dude. Kayvon. And this is the thing though, and you have to stand there when Kayvon comes. You got to give him his jersey. He like this. It's Thibodeau, man. You don't take the jersey. Get on up out of here, man. Get a regular last name, man. You from California? What kind of name is Thibodeau, man? Come on, man. Get out of here.
To be honest, Ben, I wouldn't be shocked if for real they obviously the NFL has a pretty good idea of who's going number in the first round. If they don't sit Roger Goodell down and go, now listen, we're gonna run through these names. So if one of them gets handed to you, you already know. Like, you know what I mean? So I would not be surprised if they do that in all honesty, just so there's no mess ups on, draft night where it's like, who, what? You know,
What?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm sure.
Hold on, the guy, the big time defensive end from Oregon, you just walk off, Kayvon. Sorry, bro, I can't say you laugh. I mean, listen, it's about the sound bites, Kevin. Like I said, you are listen, Kevin. You are one step away from being a meme. Because if you say the wrong thing, you got Kevin Thomas. Every time somebody announced something wrong, Steve Harvey, Miss America, every single time.
That might be the worst. Again, because that literally is like the pinnacle. It's like you literally told a girl she won the top prize, that she was out there to compete, and then 10 seconds later, after she took the walk, was like, "Oh my, you didn't win, she did." And then
yes, that is a program director's worst nightmare. He like, Steve, what are you? Oh my God! And Steve, because Kevin, in a sense, improvising, understanding I made a mistake, it actually helped his career. By the way, Steve Harvey hosted a whole bunch of stuff since then. But they told him, "Hey man, we ain't doing that stuff. Though we ain't hiring you to make no moment now.
Yeah, no more pageants ever again. Yeah, no pageants ever again." We'll come back. Emory Hunt, football game plan, going to join us. We'll get him to break down some of these guys in the first round. How could it shape up tomorrow? He'll join us next. It's here on 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're making us a part of your day. Of course, the NFL Draft coming up tomorrow night from Las Vegas. And Ben joining us here on the program from Football Game Plan. Emery Hunt steps in here on 3 and Out. Emery, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing fine, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, appreciate you coming on. Obviously, we've seen a lot of pre-draft talk. It was Aiden Hutchinson, now Javon Walker, number one. When you see Javon Walker, why the precipitous leap here in the last few weeks from a guy maybe later in the first round to a guaranteed top 10 to top 5, top 3, and now the Jags potentially want him at number one?
You know, it's interesting. I feel like every year it shows you when certain parts of a franchise get into the process. Scouts were in the process all year long, which is why you probably saw him as a later first-round guy. The GM gets involved after making some trades, and now you see him start to move up. Once the coaches get involved, the coaches look at what happened at the combine. A lot of times the combine is the first time the coaches get involved in the process, so they're putting their hands on guys, and they see them at the end. So they're seeing them working out to see the height, weight, speed, athleticism, and they tend to all come to agreement. Hey, I can coach this guy up. I can get this guy to do X, Y, and Z. I can teach him A, B, and C. And I think that's why you start to see prospects vault up, because the coaches get involved, and the GM is also involved at the latter part of the whole process.
Emery, when you look at a guy like Javon Walker, obviously he played up and down that defensive line, not just at the 3 technique, played outside, played inside, was able to drop back in coverage. How much does his versatility make it so that it makes him even more of a very, very nice pick to potentially go number one?
That's a great point. And I feel like, to your point, because, and you know better than anybody, Ben, when you get out there on game day, you only have, they always talk about the 53-man roster, but really it's 46-man roster on game day. So the more you can do, the better you are, the more value you have. And you see this across the board along the offensive line. You see this with corners that can also play safety, or safeties that can also play corner. And you're seeing it with Javon Walker, someone that can serve in any one of the techniques up front and play it well, because he showed across the board at Georgia he's able to be moved around and hold his own at the point of attack.
Emery Hunt, Football Game Plan, joining us here. You look at this first round. I know a lot of people said it's deep, maybe not top-end talented. How do you see this first round? Where's the skill level kind of fall in this first round here?
Well, I'm a draft nut. So for me, the draft is always deep, especially this class, because you're essentially dealing with 2 draft classes. We haven't seen this many prospects in a draft class in quite some time. I always like to say since World War II, when we saw the college game be this stacked with veteran talent. And so I feel like because of that, in the first round, I know people may not have 32 first-round grades on players, but you're getting legit talent in the first round. And that will always, I think that in this year, go all the way through the second to the top of the third round, where you're getting guys that can step in and start day one. We'll see guys that can make a roster and make an impact as, key reserves all the way around 7, because of how deep the class is.
Emery, when you think about this quarterback class, obviously you always hear that they're always comparing this quarterback class to a previous class or an upcoming class of 2023, but you got Malik Willis, you got Desmond Ridder, you got Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, Matt Corral, different style quarterbacks, but all guys have shown to be really, really productive at the college level. Which one of these guys, when we look back on this thing, I don't know, 4 or 5 years from now, is going to be maybe like the top of this class?
I feel like it's going to be Malik Willis, because he has the greatest upside. This is someone that showed some humbleness going from Auburn to Liberty, and he said the quiet part out loud when we asked him at the combine, what happened with you transferring to Liberty, what went into that process. He was like, man, I wasn't focused at Auburn. I didn't study. I didn't take the game seriously, and I didn't play. So when I found out that's what it takes to play, I got into my playbook. I got serious about the game. I became a better leader, transferred to Liberty, and, stayed with that same mindset. And that's why he was able to take off last year, and he was able to build on some of that this season. I feel like he's the right type of kid. He has the right type of upside. He plays what the game today suggests you play like at the quarterback position. We just talked about Javon Walker and his athleticism. Well, you better have a quarterback that can get out there and move. And I feel like he's someone that fits the mold of today's game. He has the right mental leadership capabilities and the mental aptitude to succeed. I feel like he'll be the one that we say, hey, that was a premier one of the class. But I also feel like somebody like Desmond Ridder will be the one that will be the second top quarterback of this class and say, hey, you know what? Maybe he went round 2, but he's a solid starter. He could be an Andy Dalton type or a Marcus Mariota type, which is quite fine if you're looking for someone that can kind of drive your bus if you're talking about in terms of a football team.
When you look at these quarterbacks as well, when you talk about upside, do they need to get drafted by the right team? Is it a system fit for those guys, or are they guys that can pretty much fill in wherever they get drafted?
I feel like everybody has to go to a situation that fits them, and you kind of hope the team that drafts you wants you there. And we've seen this happen in recent cases with some quarterbacks. It's come out that maybe the coaching staff didn't want this guy, but the GM wanted him, and vice versa. You hope that you go somewhere where they want you and you can have success, and they're invested in your growth and development. Because you're right, if you go somewhere and it's a bad situation, that's why I kind of don't want no one to go to Carolina that's a young rookie. I wish they'd go and get a veteran, because we don't know if that coaching staff is going to be there past this year, and you don't want to constantly have constant change for a young QB that's trying to grow and develop. So I hope these guys go somewhere where they're wanted, where they have a plan in place, and they get the time to grow and develop a player that we can reach his full potential.
I mean, when you think about this DB class, it's really everything you want. I mean, you think about a guy like Derek Stingler Jr. was the best cornerback in the country 2 years ago, but he was first year out of high school and had to wait 2 years. You think about a guy like Sauce Gardner, never ever gave up a touchdown, in college. You think about, guys like Kyrie Elam and McDuffie and so on and so forth. What makes this cornerback class come in already NFL ready? Because they seem to be getting bigger, faster, and stronger to deal with some of these receivers they're going to have to line up in front of.
And that's the biggest key. If we think about back in the day, when, back in our day, so to speak, Ben, when you had the first round was little with running backs and linebackers, right? Because that's what the college game was. Run the ball, stop the run. Now you look at the college game, you see more 3, 4, and 5 wide receiver sets. So you're seeing nickel be essentially the base coverage. Safeties now can cover. 7-on-7 is prominent in high school. So these dudes are coming into the NFL game with so many reps of running routes, playing coverage, playing each other, one-on-one. It's remarkable to see how fast these guys have come about. Because remember, the talk used to be, well, if you take a receiver in the first round, if you take a corner in the first round, it usually takes about 2 to 3 years for them to get up to speed on the NFL level. What we're seeing now, corners, safeties, and also receivers step in ready to go from day one. I feel like the corner to your question is because of what we're seeing from the passing game in college. So these guys are getting a ton of reps going up against wide receivers. So that's why they're more apt to come in and they're developing at a faster rate at the collegiate level.
Emory, I saw you talking about Kyle Hamilton earlier this week with somebody else and how he's potentially sliding in the draft, if at all possible. What do you see in Kyle Hamilton? I know people talk about him with Atlanta. What do you see from him, and what do you think when you hear people say, "Oh, he's sliding in the draft"?
I feel like people get tired of talking about the same prospects, right? So they start to make up these things that kind of knock guys down and to justify changing the narratives. Because remember, coming into the season, it was Kayvon Thibodeau clear-cut number one, right? Then the Florida State game, Notre Dame game happens, and all of a sudden we start to see Kyle Hamilton being the number one overall pick to the Houston Texans. And all of a sudden he runs a 4.6. Now he can't play. So for me, this dude is a clear-cut ball hawk on the back end. He has great instincts. And I think when you tie your instincts together with how you play on the field, it makes you look like you run 4.4. And that's why a lot of people were shocked that he ran 4.6, but he plays 4.4 because of his instincts. He has great range, great ball skills. If the Falcons were to take him at 8, I would love that pick because I'm still a big fan of Richie Grant. I love what they already have in A.J. Terrell. You're building a bully on the back end, and we know it's a quote-unquote passing league, and you got a guy that could erase mistakes on the back end in Hamilton. That's a good secondary.
And then, you mentioned something. You talking about a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau, number one recruit coming out 3 years ago. Lights out at Oregon. You talk about 19, I think, career sacks his time there at Oregon. Lived in the backfield and let him return punts. Then here it is, the 2022 draft. He was a clear cut number one. Here comes Aiden Hutchinson. Here comes Evan Neal. Here comes Javon Walker. when it's all said and done, what is it about a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau? Not the biggest guy, a little under 260, 6'5", but his game translated. Because I remember when he came out 3 years ago, they thought he was going SEC, shocked the world when he went to Oregon, but never tailed off with his game.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You watch someone that's 6'4", 255, and everything you said about Javon Walker, he could do it too. He can drop back in coverage. He can carry running backs down the sideline, can probably carry some tight ends too down the team if you want him to. And he's someone that wants to get better. And I feel like wherever he goes, he's going to provide that flexibility and versatility that you want up front. And again, talking about prospect fatigue, it was all about Kayvon Thibodeau. And I feel as though when Hutchinson had the one game, I want to say it was against against Ohio State. Next thing you know, he got Heisman buzz, and really it should have been, somebody else going to the Heisman ceremony outside of him. And next thing you know, he's been talking about his number 1 overall pick. And when you really dive into it, you see someone that's a solid pro, that could be a solid pro, but you don't see the game changer. And if the season would have ended for him after that Ohio State game, and we didn't see what happened against Georgia, we probably wouldn't have too many questions. But man, when you see what happened against Georgia, and Georgia didn't have the best offensive tackles this season, in terms of pro prospects. So you kind of wonder, well, how did this hype start to happen from where a guy goes late first round to now clear-cut number 1 overall pick? I feel like, that was a little bit far-fetched. I still think Thibodeau, if the Jags are smart, if the Lions are smart, if anyone in the top 5 is smart, they take Thibodeau if he's falling off, he's there on the board.
And then finally, when you think about the draft, right, you talk about guys like they got the hype train, like a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. He got the size, he got the ability, he got the brand name and things of that nature. You talk about a guy like Javon Walker going to be the headliner for the University of Georgia that's probably going to end up having, 20 guys when it's all said and done, potentially get drafted in this draft. And you get a guy like Kyle Hamilton. You can't coach height, speed, agility. He has it all. In your mind, if you're a GM, what are you looking for? Because some people say combine, some people say the tape, some people say the pro day. What is Emory Hunt going on to say, this is what I look at when I'm trying to decide who's going to be a part of my ball club?
I need to look at tape, and the tape only. The only reason why I'm going to Indy is to go to St. Elmo's and have good steak and shrimp cocktail. I don't care what goes on out there that doesn't involve actual football. So I'm a tape guy through and through, because how you play on film, when you're at your best, when you're at your worst, when you're full strength, when you're tired, when you're playing a little bit banged up, all of that shows on film. The combine is almost an ideal situation for you to show your best self. I need to see you in week 5 when y'all 2-3 and the team that y'all supposed to beat is kicking y'all up and down the field. I need to see you in that situation. I need to see you when a game is on the line. I need to see you make a big play when a team needs it. So to me, the tape tells you everything. You are what you put on tape. And that should be first and foremost what everyone should focus on.
Emory Hunt, football game plan, joining us here on 3 and Out. Emory, really appreciate the time. Thanks much.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot for having me.
Appreciate it. Emory Hunt, football game plan, does a great job breaking down the game, prospects, getting ready for the draft here. Ben, coming up tomorrow night. We'll come back with more 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along on this Wednesday. Draft tomorrow. We'll be out at Coach's Corner on Victory Drive in Thunderbolt. Come join us. Looking forward to that, Ben Troop, as we get ready to try to predict who's going 1 through 10. Your guess is probably as good as ours at this point. So come on out and join us. You get the most out of the top 10 correct, and we'll have a great prize for you there from Coach's Corner, big 70-inch flat screen television. We got Take 3 coming up next hour. Fred Owens, Tomahawk Take next hour as well, Ben.
All I'm looking forward to, Kevin, is two things, right? The top 10 and eating a whole bunch of wings. I don't know what, because, Kevin, I'm going to have to dive a little bit deeper into the Coach's Corner menu because everything is good. Like, I usually look at what you get. I'll be like, oh, Kevin going to probably get that pizza or something. Be over there looking good. But no, man, we're going to have a lot of fun, man. We always usually have a lot of fun with Coach's Corner. I think the last time we was there, Kevin, was when Baker Mayfield, I think, was going number 1 overall. I'm looking forward to the expressions on people's faces. They be like, dude, what's going on? They, Falcons do the right thing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, with the number 8 pick. Ah! That's what everybody's what are you doing? Come on.
One thing to do. Messed it up.
Yeah. You had one job, Fontenot. One job. We'll get into that tomorrow. We got Take 3 coming up next. 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on this Wednesday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're making us a part of your day. Fred Owens, Tomahawk Tate, going to join us. We're talking Braves baseball with him coming up in about 20 minutes here on the program. Also looking at the transfer portal. Georgia Southern's had a few players jump in, and one notable player. We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit, and part of Take 3 there as well. Plenty of draft coverage still to come here on 3 and Out also. But Ben, it is 4 o'clock. We got to do this first. We're going to Take 3 here on 3 and Out. So here we go. Take 1, Ben. I can look at my show notes. I can't find it. Now we got it outside. Just being honest. I'm like looking down at the show notes. I'm like, where's it at? I can't find it. These old eyes on a Wednesday. Hawks bounced out of the playoffs last night by the Heat, but Ben, we talked about the Hawks and kind of some of their shortcomings here in 2022. How good are the Heat, though? I mean, I know they got the number 1 seed, but a lot of people say they're still not better than Milwaukee. Still not. How good are the Heat?
They're really, really good, and they kind of showed it last night in Game 5. You think about the fact that a guy like Jimmy Butler was out with like knee inflammation, and they were still able to go out there scrap. Take nothing away from Trey and company. I mean, a very, very scrappy bunch, 97, 94. But Kevin, when arguably the heart and soul of your team, that being a guy like Jimmy Butler, is not in the lineup, you still find a way to get it done. You saying, look, I'm not gonna let him being out force a Game 6. No, we're finna go ahead and get rid of these. Very, very resilient young Atlanta Hawks. So I say having the number 1 seed, handling business, knowing that they're a team and not a player-led team. Like, look, man, we're not going to be one player-driven. We're going to be a team. I mean, Coach Spoelstra, he's a guy that I don't think gets enough credit because people think he was only good when he had D-Wade and Bosh and LeBron and his company. But, hey, find a way to get it done last night against a team that was last year's was one of 2 teams in the Eastern Conference Finals. I give this Heat team a lot of credit. I think they're really, really dangerous, really, really good. And when Jimmy Butler is in the lineup, they're very, very good.
Yeah, I think the Heat are good. Again, I think they got the number 1 seed. I don't know that, as you said, they're better than Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee kind of took on the like the LeBron teams were like, well, we could be the number 1 seed. We don't need to be, though. We'll be the 3 seed if we have. We'll still beat everybody. So I think the Heat are good. I don't know if they're the best team in the East at the end of the day. Obviously, that will play itself out if they get it done in the playoffs. But, yeah, good Miami team, and they put the Hawks out of their misery last night because that was a Hawks team that I think no matter how you slice it, Ben, yeah, you got to get in the play. They underachieved this year.
Yes.
I'm not saying you had to go back to the conference finals, but I don't think anybody, when you started the season with what you had on the roster, even with COVID early in the season, I don't think anybody looked at this Hawks roster and said, yeah, this is a play-in team. This is a team that's going to be duking it out for number 10. Like, nobody thought that. I think they underachieved in a big way. All right, Take 2, Ben. Cam Ransom, I guess now former Georgia Southern quarterback, has entered the transfer portal. Should we expect more post-spring transfers from Georgia Southern?
Absolutely. I think the Coach Helton's coming in with it. Listen, new regime, new scheme, players going to leave. And I think the truth barometer of what your fit is going to be on the team is in the spring. They're putting in a new offense. They're putting in a new game plan. They're getting the tight ends involved, which is definitely something I like. But Ransom was a guy, Kevin, that really, really athletic, but was more or less built for a option style offense and had to throw the ball occasionally, not all the time. 71 points in the spring game means that, listen, you coming over there with that old Western Kentucky type mindset to be able to light up scoreboards. Sometimes while your athletic talents and gifts don't translate to what they're trying to do. So I'm not mad at Ransom. I think he's the first of many because, like I said, I'm just talking about the offensive side. Maybe the defensive side, they're going to have some guys that don't translate to what they're trying to do. But I do expect Coach Helton to also hit that transfer portal to be able to pull certain guys out. So Ransom, while he's the first, he definitely won't be the last.
Well, I think they had a tight end yesterday as well, transfer out. But Cam Ransom, to me, Ben, was kind of interesting because he still has 3 years of eligibility left. I think Van Treese is going to be the bridge guy, to come in and say, hey, he's the guy that's got a year left, and he could be the quarterback to get us through. But Cam Ransom, to me, and I'm kind of surprised. And again, you don't know what conversation, but a guy that had the size and the speed ability to, I think, adapt in that offense. You just don't see guys that are, that big, that can run, and play the quarterback position. And maybe he'll get a shot now somewhere else. But I just feel like obviously it was the passing that held him back a little bit, but maybe not. I don't know. Again, you can't speak for guys, but maybe this would have been a good year to learn the system, work on the passing game, and be a guy that could win with his arm, his speed, and his size all at the same time. But you wish him the best of luck. I know the previous regime was really excited when Cam Ransom came in for that reason. Obviously, they were going to ask him to run the ball a little bit more, but a guy that was big, physical, could throw the ball a little bit. I'm kind of surprised by that one, but I shouldn't be surprised by the transfer portal anymore, Ben, given how it's been used here.
Yeah, and I think what happens is, Kevin, too, like you said, it's like when you talk about Coach Lunsford and company, they recruited a certain guy for offense. Coach Heldon is recruiting guys to play in his offense, and I think you make a great point when you say Randall could have said, "Look, man, you know what it's going to do for your game if you look a certain way. You built for this, right? But you sit behind this guy, you learn the passing game, you still got the physical gifts, but they finna help you be more of what the National Football League is looking for. Yes, they want to do a threat, but you're going to throw it more than you run it because that's the only way you're going to survive in the National Football League. You're not going to survive in college running the ball all the time because that's a lot of pounding on your body. So I do think that, and Kevin, I know something we're going to get to it though. Just because he's in the portal doesn't mean he don't get there and see just how congested it is and decide, well, I might want to go back because I get to do it with it. Because if I can show I can do it with two different coaching staffs, with a new guy coming in trying to help this resurgence of Georgia Southern, who knows? He might end up back in Statesboro.
Yeah, you never know. But again, he put his name in the transfer portal. All right, Ben. Finally, take 3. Mark Emmert. I'm sure you saw this. A lot of people saw it. Set to retire no later than 2023 is the head of the NCAA. How will he be remembered in your estimation, and what challenges will the new leader of the NCAA have in front of them?
I mean, I think Mark Emmert won't be remembered for, nothing more than a face. I mean, he didn't really do a lot when you talk about the NCAA. Didn't boost the status quo of the NCAA, so to speak, Kevin. It was more of a disciplinarian. Yeah, when it comes to handing out discipline, when it comes to the players, oh yeah, he can definitely do that. But I think that one thing he's going to show is I don't think he wanted anything to do with what the NCAA is becoming. We talk about NIL, we talk about more exposure. We talk about guys, young men and young women having more of a voice. And the NCAA, it's only getting bigger. He's probably saying, look, I was a part of the old regime to say we had that perception of us saying we look bigger than what we are. But now that we know they're not, the new guy or the new lady might come in and have to understand this. You're going to have to fight to keep this NCAA, going, because right now, people, like you say, Kevin, they say, well, what do we need y'all for? Like, what do we need the NCAA for when we're getting the TV deals? We're getting the players. We're getting the branding. We're getting the brand equity. We're getting the brand ambassadors. We are the faces. And if they get somebody that comes in that can embrace NIL, that can embrace the fact that, hey, man, let us go back to this perception thing. If we want to keep y'all under one umbrella because we don't want to lose that, because if we lose that, well, the NCAA is going to be no more than a tagline, a hashtag. It ain't going to be much more than that. So I do think, Kevin, whoever's going to replace Mark Emmert is going to have some big shoes to fill from what the NCAA is now. Listen, I remember when Jeremy Foley told me when he first got there in Florida, their budget was like, I don't know, 10 mil. They working at over 100 mil now. When you talking about what Scott Strickland has, so I think that now, Kevin, you got to embrace where the NCAA is now, and unfortunately, you got to be able to project where it's going, and where it's going, who knows? But I know it is not standing still.
No, and I think for me, Mark Emmert will be. I don't know if it'll be that he's not remembered. I just think he'll be remembered for being inconsistent on things, from handing out punishments to what was a punishable thing to how did you manage the college sports landscape, which a lot of it was to kind of sit back and watch, quite frankly. And again, I'm not trying to demean his impugn his character. I'm just saying from the way you look at it from the outside, you had various scandals at various universities. I think North Carolina, had a situation where guys were not going to class. I mean, and I think you get very inconsistent rulings, from how they handled NC State with COVID at the College World Series to having them kind of just forfeit their way out of the College World Series over something that might have been able to be delayed. I think you look at the proliferation of the conferences. And again, Mark Emmert does not control the schools, He does not control the conferences, but I think as a rule setter and kind of overseer, is consolidation and conglomeration is that the best for college athletics? Is it good for college athletics to have a 16-team SEC? Did you try to implement policies to slow some of that stuff down?
Yeah.
Again, I don't know. And again, probably the latest iteration is name, image, likeness, the NIL. What was your position on that? You didn't really have one. You kind of passed the buck, and then now it's kind of out there and out of control, where essentially what started out as, hey, man, I run a YouTube channel. You're not letting me monetize that. I should be allowed to make money off myself, to now we have groups saying, hey, if you come to the University of Texas and you play offensive line, you're getting $50,000. Like, it's out in the open. And this all happened in the span of a couple of months, and you're going, I get we're living in an NIL world. But let's talk about what's an actual marketing deal. Let's talk about what is a person earned versus what are they just being given. And are you overseeing that in any way? And it seems like Mark Emmert, under his leadership, the NCAA just kind of threw their hands up and said, we'll let y'all do it. Well, and now we've kind of ended up with where we're at, where you have people accusing Texas A&M of, hey, you're just slush funding recruiting and, putting out all these NIL deals to just give to recruits and things of that nature. And where's the NCAA on that? I'm not saying they should come out and say you can't do anything, but they have said nothing. Yeah. And you're supposed to be the overseer of the college athletics experience. And you have, and to me, that's more of the lasting legacy there down the stretch of Mark Emmert is you're sitting back where, yes, you are growing the collegiate landscape, but you're also in a climate where you're encouraging competitiveness. You're encouraging a couple of different things. And it's becoming readily obvious to anybody who's paying attention that in the next 5 years, you're going to have about 15 to 20 schools who financially can kick everybody else in the teeth. And I don't think that's good for the growth of the game. You have, look at what it's doing to baseball. You have 7 or 8 teams. Now, granted, a lot of teams have won the World Series over the last 2 years, but you have teams that don't spend any money, and you have teams that spend exorbitant amounts of money, and people look at the product on the field and go, how is this going to work out? And I think you're dangerously encroaching that in college. So I think whoever takes over for Mark Emmert, their job is going to be, how do I keep this thing together? Because at some point, and we've said it, the money is good for the P5 schools, but at some point you're going, like, even though the money's better, we still cannot compete. Outside of just collecting checks, we can't compete with any of what's going on. And again, I know people think I'm crazy about, they'll never break away from the NCAA. Ben, you have 16 teams pretty soon here in the SEC, of which most of which will be flagship state universities. Of those 16, probably 10 are among the top 12 in terms of most money collected. At their schools around college athletics. How do you keep that from just splitting off and saying we'll do it ourselves? I think that's a challenge, and certainly name, image, likeness, and the new era of what constitutes a quote-unquote student athlete. I think you have to define that. What constitutes not a student athlete at that point? Because I think at this point yes, they are students and they are athletes, but the amateur status part of it, I think, by and large, especially for football, has kind of gone out the window at this point. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying you have to be able to govern that somehow if you are the NCAA. So whoever steps in has got a lot on their plate because, as you said, Ben, this isn't even how the NCAA operated in 2010, right? It's 2022, and just a decade. It is complete. You want to go back and look at what college athletics looked like in 1995 when you and I were going through middle school, high school age, and what it looks like now. It is not even close. You go back and look at the Florida State Miami games, and you're going, man, that was a game of the week. That was one that everybody watched. It was at noon, first part of the day. That was where they wanted to hype the big game. And Miami and Florida State are playing in a stadium that has an open end at it. I think they were playing at Doak Campbell. One of the ends was open. Now there's millions and millions of dollars pumping in, and they've got an 80,000 seat stadium. You got, I mean, all of these situations that have changed. Sponsors everywhere, noise, light shows, multi-million dollar workout and student athlete housing. I mean, Ben, the student athlete, I mean, not even that, the student activity center. Again, I went to a smaller school, but again, the athletes had a separate weight room. That was about it. Everybody had a student activity center that they could use.
Mm-hmm.
Now, athletes at pretty much every major college, because they have to, you have an athletes only complex, right? I mean, you have like just the end zone building there at Georgia Southern. That's an athletic center. That's for athletes. You can't just walk in there and say, I'm going to use the weight room in here today. You can't just go hang out in the lounge. That's for athletes. And that's at every school. How do you manage that? So I think that is where if you're the head of the NCAA, where's this thing going? In just a short amount of time, it's completely different than what it was even 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago around college athletics.
I think the one thing, Kevin, that the new commission is going to have to do, him or her, they're going to have to predict the future by dictating it. You're going to have to dictate what's coming, because sometimes even if I don't know what's coming, I got to make it look like I did. I got to make it look, oh, yeah, we was already out there in front of that. Because, Kevin, like you mentioned, it's either college athletic or it's not. So you talk about NCAA, oh, that's all for them. That's Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, Ivy League. That's all of them. And the one thing you're saying about NIL is what's going to be their saving grace, establishing some level of the NIL that everybody benefits. Because we know right now, everybody don't got NIL deals. Not by a long shot. So be able to say, we have a, quote, NIL package that every single, male or female, regardless of sport, gets. Because that makes it look like, oh, they care about us. Kind of like when Shabazz Napier of UConn, they won the national championship. They asked him about the national. He said, I be hungry at night. So now everybody got food across. So I think it's something like that, Kevin, because just like I know, look, man, Texas going to do what they want. Oklahoma, Florida, Georgia, they're going to do what they want. So the NCAA better come up with something to say, man, let us make the smaller schools see what we making the big schools do. Hey, man, everybody got to fall in line with this. Then if everybody has a, quote, NIL package, a platform, a base point, then you can start talking about the Arch Mannings of the world that's going to demand big dollars. Because, Kevin, just like I know, if Texas A&M was number one recruiting in 2022, you know what they're trying to do now? They're trying to be number one recruit in 2023. They ain't trying to go back to number one, number three. So, and mind you, we know, once again, and Texas A&M can't even win the SEC West. And they're going to be number one recruiting. That's what the money does. But yeah, I do think the NCAA going to have to get out in front of this thing.
That's Take 3. We do it every day. This time we'll chat some Braves baseball. Fred Owens, Tomahawk Take, joins us when we return here on 3 and Out. Good to have you along here, 3 and Out on this Wednesday afternoon. We'll get to more draft coming up in just a little bit, Ben, as we've got that coming up tomorrow. We'll be at Coach's Corner, but the Braves coming up tonight, finishing going on, I guess should say, game 2 of a 3-game series with the Chicago Cubs. And joining us here from Tomahawk Take, Fred Owens joins us here on 3 and Out. Fred, welcome. How are you?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. How's things out east?
Hey, we're doing fantastic. This is a Braves team that has a chance to, if they can get a win tonight, and they got a favorable pitching matchup, win a series for the first time all year. I know that's kind of been the Braves mantra, but here through the first, 2.5 weeks of the season, what's been kind of your thoughts on the Braves and their start?
Well, you know, the pitchers weren't all that bad. Lineup didn't do a lot. We had that one big blowout thing in the middle there, but mostly the lineup didn't give the pitchers much support. If you don't give the starters much support, they tend to try to get finer and finer and pick and pick. And I just think it was just low off the mark for the lineup and for a couple of pitchers. Ian Anderson in particular had a horrible start to the season, but he'll be okay. Elder's been really good. Fried's been magnificent as usual, as I expected him to be. And Charlie will come around. So I'm not worried about the pitching so much as I am getting the lineup ignited somewhere. And maybe Ronnie will do that when he comes back next week, and maybe we'll need to kick in the butt somewhere else.
And Fred, you mentioned Ronald Acuna Jr. coming back next week. How big of a spark do you think he's going to be for this lineup?
I'm sorry about it. I didn't pick you up. I didn't hear a thing. You were way off in the distance. I didn't hear you.
I was saying that when you think about a guy like Ronald Acuna Jr. and him being added back to the lineup, how big of a spark you think he could be for this lineup?
Well, it's going to be important. I mean, Ronnie brings the adrenaline. If you're compare the team to a human body, Ronnie's the adrenaline for the team. He gets everybody going. Ozzie, in my view, is the heartbeat of the team. He keeps it pumping along, and Ronnie provides the adrenaline to the team. So I think he's going to give him a shot in the arm. I would expect him to go off at least the first couple of games that he's back. Once they settle down a little bit, we're going to have to see what we can get out of Adam in center field and whoever's going to play left. And, maybe we can get Dansby going a little bit more here. But he's going to give him a shot in the arm. He's going to be on base. He's going to hit a couple of long bombs. They're going to get fired up with having Ronnie back because that's what he does for a team. He injects energy into it and life and spirit, and he's got all that. And he's going to be big when he comes back. I don't know if it's enough, but he's going to be big when he comes back.
And Fred, to that end, I know a lot of people think he's going to slide right into the DH first and foremost, but we got to see him down at Jacksonville. He was, out there running around, stealing bases, getting home from second on singles. Would he not just go right back into the lineup? Because as you said, the defensive play in the outfield for Atlanta has been pretty abysmal at times this year.
Yeah, I think that Smith said yesterday or the day before yesterday, I believe, in an interview that Ronnie will probably go back into the outfield at least to start. And I don't know that they're going to play him there every day because playing 9 innings at the major league level is significantly harder than playing 9 innings in AA or AAA. And I believe he plays his first 9-inning game tonight, weather willing down there. So it's a lot rougher. I know people look at it, well, it's all baseball, but it doesn't work out that way. It's harder at the major league level. Everything's more intense. And I think they want to make sure that they don't blow him up again. They want to work him back in. He's going to start in right field, and I think you're going to see Ronnie and Duvall and Demerit rather in the outfield. Maybe you'll put Ozuna in there if they got a right-handed pitcher on the mound. But I think they're going to give him a game or two, and then they'll give him a day off of the DH, and they'll move him around back and forth like that. The important thing is keep him healthy and keep him at the top of the lineup. If that works, everything else will fall into place.
Fred, how do you solve a guy like Dansby Swanson's struggles right now?
I'm sorry again. I did. You sound like you're in a well for it, but I'm sorry.
Speak to Dansby Swanson and what's going on with his struggles right now.
I wish I knew. Dansby's. The first couple of weeks he was really bad. He was really pulling off the ball. His head was going one direction, the bat was going the other. He was collapsing on his back leg. He was out of time. He had that one game where he got a couple of 3 really good knocks, and I thought, well, he's coming back. Then he slipped back a little bit. he's always going to be this kind of streaky player. But right now, at the start of the season, he was hitting off his front foot mostly, and with not much power, and he just wasn't seeing the ball. Maybe that'll pick up, and maybe that'll come around. He started looking at it, and I think he will come around, but he's never going to be Derek Jeter or anybody like that. You're going to have to take the good defense and hope for okay at the plate. He's still pretty clutch, and I think that'll continue to happen. But he's got to solidify the base a little bit, and he's got to keep that head down on the ball and moving. I'd spread him out a little bit if it was me, but they don't pay me to do that. But I'd spread him out and make him hit off a flat plane and just try to smack the ball some way. But they don't ask me for that opinion, so they probably don't care.
Fred, but to that end, I mean, that's kind of Bobby Cox, Brian Snitker managing to a T, right? It's like, hey, you're playing great defense. We'll wait for the bat to come around, because I asked a few times during this stretch, like, does he just need to sit at some point because he was so bad at the plate? I mean, he was almost at a 50% strikeout rate, headed for 250 strikeouts on the year. And Brian Snitker was, I don't know, content's the right word, but he was willing to keep putting him out there every day.
Well, you got to understand who the replacement is, okay? Arcia is not a great shortstop, and he's not going to hit any better than I know he ran into a couple. He had that really good game, but that was two pitchers that he really owns, and the rest of the league doesn't have that kind of handle on. Arcia had a chance to be Milwaukee's regular shortstop 3 years in a row and couldn't hold it. What makes you think he can play shortstop better than Dansby? I think Dansby's important for who he is on the field. I know a lot of people poo-poo that, but I think having Dansby out there is important, because with the heart and the energy out there, you got to have some brains. And nobody has a higher baseball IQ than Swanson right now. And Matty Olson, he's still feeling his way. He's steady at first, and Austin's coming up at third base. But right now, the baseball acumen, the baseball IQ is in the middle of the diamond, and that's Dansby and Ozzie. And I think that having him out there is a lot more important on the defense than it would be to pick up 5 points in the batting average, maybe. And Arcia is going to strike out the world like Dansby did too. So it's going to be like that. I don't see any benefit there, and I don't know who you're going to get to replace him if it's not Arcia.
Fred Owens, Tomahawk Take, joining us here on 3 and Out. And Fred, again, so much of the first part of the season was about Freddie Freeman and him not being here, and then the Brave series with the Dodgers, that it almost felt like, that was the best thing that could have happened to Matt Olson. He's just like, hey, I'm just the guy over here playing first base, hitting close to 400. I mean, has he handled that transition, being the guy to follow the guy, about as well as anybody possibly could?
And look, Matt Olson's a fine guy. He stepped into that, and from day one, he said, I'm not here to replace Freddie Freeman. I'm here to be Matt Olson, and I'll be the best Matt Olson I can be. And right now, you can't argue with doing that. I mean, he's 270, 375, 541 right now. That's pretty good. And he's not going to be Freddie, but you don't want him to be Freddie. You want him to be Matt, and he's a really good Matt when he's out there. Gold Glove caliber defender. Back comes around, hits line drives all over the field. His bat doesn't look that much different than Freeman's did in that spot. He's hitting balls to left field. He's hitting doubles down the line. He's getting under the ball, hitting the ball hard. I don't know that we did much but get a little bit younger and change the name on the back of the uniform there. And I think that making it whether he's going to be Freddie or not is just the wrong idea here. This is a fine ball player, big bat, hell of a guy, and he's just doing a great job for us right there. I don't think you could do any better than him.
Fred Owens, Tomahawk Take, joining us. Fred, finally wanted to get your thoughts on the pitching. Obviously, Max Fried, Charlie Morton's 1-2, his ERA up around 6. We figure those guys will, perform. Obviously, Max Fried did well last night. Where do you see the rest of this rotation? Because that's obviously something that you want to shore up. Are you on the Kyle Wright train? Do you feel like, Ian Anderson eventually is going to come all the way back where he was? And, obviously Bryce Elder there at number 5. Is that something that he can hold on to?
Well, those are all really good questions. First of all, I think Charlie will come back because Charlie Morton is Charlie Morton, and he knows a lot about pitching. Max has been my guy ever since I saw him throw those big hooks out there and strike people out back when he first came over. Anderson, is going to be the kind of guy that if he goes out and he doesn't have the feel for the ball, he's really a touch and feel pitcher. He's got to put that changeup and his breaking pitches. He's got to put them where he wants them to make them more effective. And he's had a little trouble doing that this year. Kyle Wright is the Kyle Wright I expected to see 2 years ago. Of course, that got held up by the pandemic and stuff, and he didn't really come around. But I think this is the Kyle Wright they drafted. This is the guy they expected him to be, and I don't think this is the flash in the pan. I don't think it's the 1 year wonder kind of thing. It took him a long time to get it on track, and I think this is the guy you're going to see now. He's going to settle in as a number 3 starter, and maybe a number 2 on some teams, but on this team, a number 3 starter. Elder, you're going to have to watch his innings, and you're going to have to get him some help because he's not done this at this level for this long before. I mean, he was 2 years ago. He was in college. I mean, he just hasn't really had a lot of innings and stuff out there. He's strong. He doesn't get shaken up. But they're going to need some more support. Maybe that comes from within. Maybe they have to go out and get it. But they're going to need more pitchers that goes down the line simply because people are going to get injured, and you're going to need days off, especially for people like Elder who haven't thrown that long. Maybe you see Tarnock up again. Maybe you see Kyle Muller back up again. But we're going to see all of them at some point during the season.
Fred Owens, Tomahawk Take, our guest here on 3 and Out. Fred, appreciate it. Thanks much.
Always my pleasure, guys. Stay safe.
Will do. Fred Owens joining us here on 3 and Out. Braves and Cubs coming up tonight. We'll come back with more 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Welcome back. It's 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're making us a part of your day. We'll certainly look at the NFL draft upcoming here in hour number 3, right around the corner. Also, is anybody going to overthrow the SEC in this thing? We'll talk about that as well. But Ben Cam Ransom entered the transfer portal for Georgia Southern and is going to be taking his talents elsewhere. And didn't really want to talk about that. Just want to talk about the transfer portal and where it's at. I saw a report there on ESPN earlier this week that said they studied the transfer portal over the last calendar year, 51% of the people that go into the transfer portal sign with another school. 51%. You're like, okay, that's 49 left. Okay, you're right. 8% go back to the school they wanted to transfer from. Okay, that's 59%. What about the other 41? They end up nowhere there as far as the transfer portal is concerned. And Ben, I know you've talked about this, but it seems as it's come along, the transfer portal has become very hyped, very talked about in terms of, well, you don't like the way it's going, just hop in a transfer portal. I don't even need to recruit high school players. I can go to the transfer portal. And you hear people go, hey, man, that's crazy. But if you got 40% of the guys that never come back out of that thing, are college coaches crazy saying, I can always go to the transfer portal? There's guys sitting around waiting for an opportunity that have already had some level of college football. So is the transfer portal overplayed, overhyped? Will we see a dying down of the number of players that want to jump in the transfer portal, or is this just going to be a continuing problem where guys say, look, my opportunity to better myself, and you're betting on the fact that you're one of those 59%?
It's gonna be a problem until you have players really start speaking out, saying what it really is. I think too often at times, Kevin, everybody think they're gonna be Joe Burrow going from Ohio State, to LSU, and that's just not the norm. 41% never come out. 40, and when they talk about the quote 8% that go back to their schools, are they going back to a school that's welcoming? They're not talking about are they playing. They saying, okay, we're gonna let you come back. And then 51% or 51, 52% or whatever it is actually go to a school. Well, what school is that? Because, see, that's the thing, Kevin. You start breaking down, okay, 52%, okay, they go to another school. What school? Was the school of their choice? Or will they say, look, man, this is what you got. What's up? Or for 41% are in there. 41%, that's a lot. I mean, think about that. Hey, man, we're going to give you, we're going to give you 52% of your check. What? Yeah, 41 is gone. Like, and the other 8%, we're gonna put it in the PTO. That's paid time off for those of you who don't know. I'm just saying that I just think, Kevin, no, the transfer portal is a reality that most people think it's not gonna be theirs when they go in it. Oh, it's not gonna be me. I'm gonna be in that 51. Yeah, are you though? Because if somebody's telling me if I leave school X to go to school Y, well, school Y might be, it might not be the one I wanted. It might be the one that's left. So I do think Kevin is crazy because you know what the transfer portal really is, though? All these guys have been at the top of their game for so long, they feel as though, oh, man, they're going to be waiting on me. Nah, this ain't the same thing, man. This ain't recruiting to where you had 10 offers and you pick one of 10. This could be you have one offer. Like, this is it.
And again, it was like I said, I'm not trying to be misleading about it. Obviously, and you're talking about the transfer portal encompasses FCS football, D2 football. Yep. So obviously the numbers go down from there. So it's like obviously more D1 guys will find a place to land, but you're still going at 41%. D2 FCS are looking for a place to play, and Ben, that's a big number. And it's well more than 1,000 guys. But I mean, just for some perspective, if you just had 1,000 guys going into the transfer portal, that's still over 400 guys that don't have a place to play, that don't have a place to go and move on to the next level. That is a huge amount. And obviously the transfer portal is not just for football. I mean, it's basketball, it's baseball, it's softball, it's track. It's everybody that's been out there able to jump in this thing. So there is a large amount of number, but I kind of first saw it like only 50%, a little bit more than 50% of the people that go in actually sign with a different school. I mean, that's a pretty staggering number if you're thinking about jumping in that thing. And obviously D1 folks are going to have a little more success rate with that, but that is a staggering number to think there's a 50% chance you end up at another school, maybe nowhere at all.
Yeah, and Kevin, you think about Kevin, you saying those stats, but that's what needs to be said more often. Hey, if you leave school X, there is a 50% chance that you won't go to another school. That like people be saying, hey man, you like sabotage your own career. Why? Because it wasn't going the way you want. Well, who's to say it's going to go the way you want at another school? You still got to deal with recruiting. You still got to deal with guys that are trying to get on the field at the school you're going to. And who you were is not who you are. Your best recruiting is going to be when you come out of high school, 4-star, 5-star, whatever. Now, former 5-star. Yeah, okay. JT Daniels. He's on school number 3. It's going to have to work here because I don't know if another school will even take him. USC, Georgia, West Virginia. Hey, but he's also a quarterback. He's also one guy. I just think, Kevin, the transfer portal is a reality. Most people really don't know what it's going to be like until they venture into it. And like I say, they may never come out of it.
Well, I mean, I hope it leads to a little bit more thought of sticking it out and playing through them. And we don't have time to get into it right this minute, but I mean, you are a prime example of a guy, and you've been honest. Said, look, I probably thought about transferring, but you stuck it out, waited your turn, and finally got a chance to play. And I wonder how much of that. And I know that, especially guys that have that, we're going to the league. I want my game tape. I get it, but there's also some of it that, hey, if you wait your turn, we see it at Alabama. Hey, I sat for 2-3 years, finally got my turn. I'm still a first, second round draft pick at that place. I know that can't be everybody, but man, I hope this leads to a little more guys wanting to stick it out. We got more to come here. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network, streaming live at ESPNCoastal.com. Good to have you along here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you are with us. Thanks for making us a part of your day. And joining us here on the program, again, our good friends at Walker Jones, giving away a boat tomorrow. Here to tell us a little bit about that, Brad Tootin, sales manager at Walker Jones, joining us. Brad, welcome. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Actually, the giveaway is Friday.
Friday. I'm sorry. I'm was in a hurry reading my notes, and I apologize about it. Tell folks about that giveaway, and do they have a chance to still put their name in for it?
Absolutely. We're going to be taking names up until probably 3:30 Friday evening, and then we're going to draw at 5 o'clock. So it's a 14 by 36 G3. It's got a 9.9 Yamaha on it, 4-stroke, of course, 45 thrust and Nakota motor, trolling motor. Comes fully equipped. It's got a magic tilt trailer, so it's good to go. All you got to do is put it in the water.
Hey, that sounds like my kind of prize, ready to go. So all they have to do is stop by, and obviously no purchase necessary. You got to be over 18, I guess, is the only kind of criteria there.
That is correct. No purchase necessary. Got to be over 18 years of age, and one entry per person. That doesn't mean per household. So if you have 5 or 6 people over the age of 18 in your house, every one of y'all can register.
So get out to Walker Jones is what we're trying to say. Go see Brad and the folks there, and you could win a 2022 a boat G3. Man, what a prize! Hopes. I would love to win it. Obviously, I can't, but man, it's gonna be a lot of fun. And it's what time's that drawing on Friday? You said
Friday at 5 o'clock. Yes, sir.
5 o'clock. Go out to Walker Jones. Get in there. Great chance to win, and of course, a great place to go and get your next ride as well. And go to Walker Jones to get involved with that. Brad, appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you.
Appreciate it. Brad Tootin joining us here, sales manager at Walker Jones. Ben, boat with a trailer ready to go. Just stop by and get registered up to win there at Walker Jones. They're giving one away on Friday.
I'm just saying, Kevin, man, why is it, we obviously we ain't eligible to win these prizes, but are they trolling us with some of these prizes? These prizes have gotten a lot better over the years. I mean, I'm not saying the ones in previous years was bad, but my goodness, man, a boat. Hey, man, you leave the house with nothing, you come back with a boat. Hey,
it's
man,
ready to go. Comes with the trailer as well, so you just back it up, take it with you.
I'm just saying, man. Did they say anything about registering for this thing with a fake name? I mean, I am over 18. I'm just saying.
I don't do that. The boat does not.
I'm not going to do it because I got to show up and get the thing. I'm like, no, I'm just here to get it for him. He down the street.
Kevin Thomas and Ben Troop are not part of a moving company. So if you're at Walker Jones, if we just show up, we did not get sent there by the winner to take it with us. Although that would be pretty.
Oh yeah. They were like, no, listen. He said it's like both of ours. He's just gonna leave it at my house. So I'm just
exactly 100%. We're just gonna leave it with us. We'll take care of it. No, go to Walker Jones, get yourself registered for a chance to win that 2022 boat there, a G3 John boat. Great prize, comes ready to go with that trailer. So go to Walker Jones and register for your chance to win. We got another hour to go. Ben, draft tomorrow. All the excitement. Are the Jags going to mess this thing up from what everybody's been telling them to do? Also, the SEC just dominating the draft. Is that going to change anytime soon? We'll debate that. Final hour, 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Final hour of 3 and Out. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're with us here on the show. NFL Draft coming up tomorrow. Ben Troop will be at Coach's Corner on Victory Drive in Thunderbolt. Play a little top 10 with us. Pick the top 10 draft picks tomorrow night. Whoever gets the most correct going to win a 70-inch flat screen television. So have a little fun with us there tomorrow at Coach's Corner. Looking forward to that. But Ben, finally, after all the waiting and the hype, it will be here, and we'll see who we can boo, who we can go what, and who we think actually made a good pick. As we know, Jag's going to be first on the clock. It's been Aiden Hutchinson. A lot of folks say, hey, don't listen to the pre-draft blustering. It's still Aiden Hutchinson. A lot of folks think it's now Javon Walker. Could they pull the ultimate surprise? And Doug Peterson said, listen, fellas, I want an offensive lineman to protect my quarterback. Could it be an Evan Neal? Who knows? But the betting favorite seems to be Javon Walker at this point, moving off of Aiden Hutchinson. Ben, we're now, 26 hours out. Do you still feel Aiden Hutchinson, or do you feel like the Jags are going to go for the versatile ball player or football player?
I think the Jags are going to go more versatile. I think from everything I'm seeing on Twitter, Kevin, which I'm not saying Twitter is my source for my sources. But I will say I'm seeing a lot of Jag beat writers that saying that what they're hearing is they're probably going to go with Javon Walker. And I think what happens is, Kevin, when you start looking at this Georgia defense last year, that was historic. Javon Walker was a big part of it. Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, Lewis Stein, Devontae. I mean, the list goes on and on. I think it goes back, to what Emory Hunt was saying early in the show. You want versatility. You want a guy that's a jack of many trades. He can do a lot of things. He can play on the inside. He can play on the outside. He can play on the nose. He can cover guys. He can run down the seam with a tight end. He can run. He can go out there and cover. A running back on third down. He can drop in zone. And I think when you got that much versatility, and he can rush the passer, and you really don't know how good he is because his ceiling is through the roof, 6'5", 275, 451. I think the Jags want to make a splash more than they want to go with the pick like Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, Javon Walker do that. He will be the highest drafted defensive player in Georgia, University of Georgia history. But yeah, Kevin, from all I'm seeing with all the beat writers, I think they're gonna go with the freak, and that is Javon Walker.
And again, a lot of folks thinking that Detroit would love that if Aiden Hutchinson slid down there to number 2. So could be interesting there at the top. If the Jags go a wild card and take an Evan Neal, that throws the whole first round off kilter from what everybody I think has kind of been preparing for over the last couple of weeks. So who knows with the Jags? You'll have to wait and see. But Ben, who is going to be somebody? And there's somebody every year. And I'm not saying they're sitting there like a sad sack in Vegas. Hey, I'm in Vegas. Let me hang out here as long as possible if that's what it takes. But who's the guy you think is going to be hanging around a little bit longer than maybe people think he's going to heading into tomorrow night's draft?
I think it's going to be Nakobe Dean. I think it's going to be the Buckets Award winner, the All-Star linebacker, the All-SEC, All-American linebacker for the University of Georgia. Not because I don't think he's an incredible player for which he is, and while I do think he was the heart and soul of that Georgia defense, Kevin, I mean, I know that Emory Hunt said he goes off the tape. I go back to his pro day. He wasn't 100% healthy. I blame his agent for letting him go out there and trying to go out there and not be 100%. But they're gonna go off what they see. Everything you put on tape, they're gonna go off of it. Undersized, I think a little bit under 6 feet tall. Definitely you look at what you want in linebackers these days with the Roquan Smiths of the world, the Bobby Wagners of the world. I think he fits that mold of just guys that just hit everything that moves, but these teams are always looking for, kinks in the armor. I mean, what is it about this dude that really doesn't translate or whatever? So I do think Kevin Nakobe Dean could be a guy that can slip, and a guy, Desmond Ridder, a guy who has first round ability, probably going to slip as well coming out of Cincinnati.
I feel like, again, if teams stay patient, I think the quarterbacks will all slide a little bit because, again, not hating on their abilities. I just think you look at them and there's enough reasons to pass versus we got to jump up and take them. Ben, and how many teams are desperate for a quarterback versus will actually sit back and say, I'm okay if we wait until next year when we maybe are projected to be still in this kind of same range and we might be in play for one of those 3 guys. So I think the quarterbacks may slide. I'm always, could be proven wrong with this and teams overreach for quarterbacks all the time. But I feel like if you're not getting Malik Willis, most teams will be willing to sit and wait and say, well, is Sam Howell that much different than Kenny Pickett? is, if we have to get Desmond Ridder instead of Kenny Pickett, are we cool with that? I mean, I think most people will be. So I don't know if there's going to be a huge rush. I could be wrong because teams freak out about the quarterback, but I don't feel like there's going to be that panicked rush like we've seen in drafts past where, quarterbacks are going off, got to step up and get one.
Yeah, Kevin, you might be right, but then it's going to depend on where the first one goes, because usually it's that trickle effect. It's almost like, okay, it's like that gentleman's wager. All right, Team X, Kevin Thomas. You say you're not gonna get him right now. I'm not, you pick number 5, I'm pick number 6. We both want the same guy, but you said, hey, not gonna get him right. Then all of a sudden, pick 5 come in, Kevin Thomas gets him. I'm like, and then your phone don't work. Kevin, I see you. I can see you on TV smiling. I see your phone. No, Kevin, this is the thing, though. The quarterback is that one position that everybody wants one, right? And this is the thing. They want one even if they already got one. They still want one. Because that way I got my present and future already in the building. So that's the thing that's not being talked about, too. Now, I know now, Kevin, when it comes to first-round quarterbacks, man, if they go in the first round, they're gonna play. It's like, unless that's Tom Brady out there or Drew Brees, those type of guys, or Brett Favre, these guys are gonna play. But I think that at the end of the day, I'm gonna be intrigued to see how many quarterbacks end up going first round, Kevin. Because this is the thing, we already got the numbers. You know what? 33%. That's your success rate, right? So if that's what the success rate is, what makes me think a lot of things have to factor into that? Organization, fit, scheme, all those things got to factor in the type of player I'm getting, because every player that's been successful in the National Football League had those that great organization, great fit, great scheme, a great, really, really good guys around him. Quarterbacks, they have to make the scheme. Amen. The Ravens, they made their offense more tailored to what Louisville did for Lamar Jackson. That's why you see, and people thinking he ain't good, the first team All-Pro tight end last year, that would be one Mark Andrews. He's loving Lamar Jackson at this point. But I just think for me, Kevin, I gotta see it to believe it. Because we talking about ain't gonna be no quarterbacks, and they're gonna start panicking. Desmond Ridder gone, Sam Howell gone, Kenny Pickett gone, Malik Willis gone, Matt Corral gone. So we'll see. But if they make it to the second round, they will not go past the second round, mind you. Then it's going to be, who can we trade up to get one of these guys at the top of the second round?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that they all are not going to go maybe first, second round. I'm just saying I don't know who's willing to move up to get one. I think Matt Corral and Desmond Ridder are both going to be available at 10. I'm not going to move up to 5, right? I'm not going to move up to 6 because why? Are they that? Is it the one guy just have to have? I don't know that again, people fall in love with people, right? Hey, I got to talk to him face to face. I love this guy's that's just a natural thing. But again, guy with no feelings whatsoever about who gets drafted where, I don't see a guy that I would panic and say, man, figure out a way to move me up 2 spots to go get him. I'm waiting and seeing. And again, I said it with the Falcons. I'm content on not getting the quarterback in this draft. I would address other things. So I'm not panicking. Maybe you buy into somebody else's panic. Oh man, we might be thinking about quarterback at number 8. You want our pick? Maybe I feed into that a little bit, but no, just me personally, Malik Willis is a maybe. And I think he could be a good quarterback in the league, but to me, I don't see a quarterback that's leaping off the page at me saying, I can't live without this guy on my roster.
No, I agree. And look, and well, let's call it what it really is. Kevin, to those quarterbacks they did that for in the past, right? We look down the line to see, quote, were they worth it, right? Because I heard this 4 years ago with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, if you Google him, it says he's the Cleveland Browns quarterback, but that's not the reality. He's not playing for Cleveland next year. Kyler Murray, he deleted everything for the Arizona Cardinals, yet he wants a new deal. Well, that's not the way to go about it. Yet Kirk Cousins only plays for guaranteed money, right? I'm not playing if it ain't for guaranteed money. Carson Wentz has been on 3 teams in 3 years. Jared Goff was the former number 1 overall pick, and they don't want him after 1 year in Detroit. So the quarterback in the National Football League, after that top tier, it drops way off. So if you even get a subpar rookie, that's still better than some of these veterans in the National Football League right now. But like I say, Kevin, nothing moves the needle more than a potential quarterback that can take your franchise out of the dark ages, potentially into the playoffs. Because I don't know what in the world's going on in Cincinnati, but I've never seen a turnaround like that in year 2 for a guy like Joe Burrow.
Right, but Ben is that, but everybody says, oh, and again, I guess that's what we fall in love with in drafts is, well, they did it. Yeah, but that's what made that run so unbelievable is that they did it, and everybody's going, well, Joe Burrow's amazing. You kind of helped him out offensive line wise, and then you got exposed. Really, you got exposed in the playoffs. You just happened to be able to get by and get through because you made plays in overtime and some of those things. I'm not faulting them, but a lot of people look at it and go, man, look at Cincinnati. That's the blueprint. We get us a Joe Burrow. It's like that's like saying, well, if we get us a Tom Brady and Nick Saban, well, those guys just don't come around every single year in the draft. And again, you are a Ryan Tannehill throw away from being eliminated in the second, well, however you want to call it, the second round, first round, because the Titans got to buy of the NFL playoffs, and you never make it to go to the Super Bowl. It was that thin for you. You made a play in overtime to kind of put yourself in position. So I just look at it and say, hey, well, they did it. I agree, but that's not always the best way to say, hey, if we draft this guy in 2 years, we're in the playoffs. I mean,
that ain't working. I mean, you have outliers, right? That's an outlier.
Yeah, Joe Burrow is a special player that you don't find every year in the draft, and it happened like the first year, you almost got him killed. So
it's like they just forget about year one and going to year two. I mean, that's the thing about Joe Burrow. People will say, "Oh, well, Joe Burrow was a proven winner." Well, Joe Burrow was a proven winner in 2019 because in 2018 he wasn't the same player, right? But you saw what he did. But we always give the credit to the quarterback. I mean, Joe Mixon, all pro caliber quarterback, running back. Jamar Chase, arguably the best young receiver in the league. T. Higgins, 1,000-yard receiver. Tyler Boyd. These aren't slouches, people. These aren't. You got 3 potential 1,000-yard receivers, definitely 2 of them. You got a 1,000-yard running back. Now the offensive line, I ain't never seen nothing like that happen to where a team gives up 9 sacks and win. Like that can't be the blueprint, Kevin. But I will say this: look, if Joe Burrow does anything else, he gives you hope for the future. Because most teams, there isn't any. That stuff is fake. They know what's going to happen. And I just think that for Joe Burrow, you look at that division. Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, Mitchell Trubisky in Pittsburgh, but that's not going to be what they're going to have moving forward. Sometimes, Kevin, you got to get guys in there and say, man, we need to have a really, really good quarterback just to compete in this division. You notice I didn't say Baker Mayfield, right? Because he's no longer in that division. He's looking for a home. Former number 1 overall pick. So I just think for me, Kevin, when you think about these quarterbacks, just like with quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, DNs, O-linemen, safeties, corners, linemen, we don't know. It's almost like I thought he was going to be better. Well, yeah, we thought a lot of guys were going to be much better than that, right? I mean, if Bo Jackson don't get an injury, what his career could have become in the National Football? You see what I'm saying? It's like we just don't know the injury bug, the wrong scheme, and they could Antonio Brown. I'm just lose their mind all of a sudden, just lose it. We don't know what they doing. Or you could have like a Gordon that played all those years at receiver. This dude play 1 year, he's out the league next year, come back. Play another year, out the league next. So I don't know, but I do think, Kevin, when it's all said and done, first round, second round, if you at quarterback, they're going to find a way to eventually get you in. Or you could be the 11th overall pick in one draft, Josh Rosen, and you be on a different team every year since. So we don't know, Kevin. This is the NFL draft. It has a 33% success rate. My goodness.
Yeah, it comes at you fast, certainly there in the National Football League. We'll come back. We'll look at that Falcons number 8. 1 day out. We'll get Ben's best guess there for what the Falcons do at 8 and what position is getting overvalued constantly in the draft. We'll break that down next. It's 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here with you on 3 and Out on this Wednesday. Tomorrow is draft day. Ben Troop, we're going to be out at Coach's Corner on Victory Drive in Thunderbolt. Want you to come out and join us and participate. We're going to do a little top 10 challenge. Pick the first 10 picks in the draft. Whoever gets the most is going to win a 70-inch television. The Falcons at number 8 overall, Ben. We're 25 and a half hours away from the draft. What is your best guess for Atlanta at number 8 right now?
My best guess for Atlanta at number 8 is, I've seen some of these interviews with Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith. While I do think Terry Fontenot could be the type of guy to go to pull the trigger on a quarterback, I see him going. If Kayvon Thibodeau is there, they get him. I believe if Kyle Hamilton is there, they get him. I believe if Evan Neal is there, they get him. One of those three. But for me, I think they're going to end up probably going receiver, and this is why. When you look around,
don't do that. Oh man, that would be.
I'm gonna tell you why. This is the thing. You just said it. There's not a quarterback in this draft that they just head over. There's not a Matty Ice to them in this draft, right? So they say, okay, we're in the rebuild. Like we know. They're in the rebuild. So if we're in the rebuild, they'll say we'll take our chances on a future draft pick next year, or maybe a veteran quarterback in the offseason next year. They go ahead and say, what's going to give us the best opportunity to try to even win the perception battle of trying to compete this year in this division? Because, Kevin, you got a lot of young guys. Kyle Pitts going to year 2. A.J. Terrell going to year 3. You want to start saying, hey, man, we want to start showing you guys that we're trying to get back to a winning organization. So you look at these receivers, it's a lot of guys that can help out a guy like Marcus Mariota. You talk about, Garrett Wilson. You talk about, Drake London. You talk about Chris Olave. You talk about Traylon Burks. It's going to be a lot of guys you can get. Plus, Kevin, we said it. They need everything. The Falcons need everything. They need a quarterback. They're not going to get a running back. They need a running back. They need a receiver. They need a backup tight end. They need a defensive end. They need another linebacker. They need another safety. They need another offensive lineman. And I think what you do is you say, all right, we rather get a guy that's going to contribute than get a guy at quarterback, Kevin, that's going to make it so that Marcus Mariota, they're going to pull the plug on him sooner rather than later on a team that's not going anywhere anytime soon. So like I said, Kayvon Thibodeau, Evan Neal, maybe a Kyle Hamilton. One of those three guys, because when I say 1 of 3, all 3 of those guys will be there. One of them is there. I think you get him, Kevin, especially with a guy like Kyle Hamilton, his versatility, Kayvon Thibodeau, who most have the best pass rusher in the draft, and Evan Neal, who was a consensus number 1, and I don't know what happened to him. All he did is, go to Alabama, left tackle. I don't know what in the world he did, but for my money, Kevin, it's probably going to end up being like a receiver, because I think they want to give Marcus Mariota as many weapons as they possibly can, because that defense is going to struggle. So maybe they're going to try to outscore people this year. Okay, so feet to the fire. Who's the pick? You said a receiver. Who? The number with the number 8 pick in the 2022 NFL draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Garrett Wilson. Receiver out of Ohio State.
That would be an interesting pick. Ben, you're talking about pass catchers in the draft in the first round. People say, how much draft capital have the Falcons spent on pass catchers?
A lot.
In the first round?
A lot. They spent a lot.
Calvin Ridley, first round pick. Julio Jones, first round pick. Kyle Pitts last year, and then you're going to come back with another one. Wow.
Listen, Roddy White. First round pick. Mike Jenkins, first round. They've been doing it for way back when I came out in 2004. They got Mike Jenkins in 2004. They got Roddy White in 2005. They get Julio some years later. The thing about it is, though, Kevin, it's an offensive-driven league. So what helps you? What helps put them in the seats? Scoring points. Now, unfortunately, you want to be scoring points for your team and trying to keep the other team from scoring them. We forgot to tell the Atlanta defense that. But I just think that Kevin, and like I said, a wild card. I said Neal, Thibodeau, Hamilton. Now, a wild card, even though I think they're going to go with Garrett Wilson. A receiver out of Ohio State. A wild card, though, a wild card might be Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati, because A.J. Terrell, he's the best player. He made the biggest jump from year 1 to year 2. And like I said, you want key contributors. If I got 2 bookend cornerbacks, with one of them, listen, Sauce, I ain't trying to jinx you. You are going to give up a touchdown sooner rather than later. Hopefully not that many. But I'd rather get a guy, Kevin, that's 6'3", never gave up a touchdown in his career, got a chance to play against Alabama, Georgia in back-to-back years, made the college football playoff. I mean, if you can get him, because like I said, if you're trying to get contributors, I don't know if you're going to get a better one than Neal. Well, I'll go Thibodeau, Neal, Hamilton, Gardner, but they're going to probably end up getting Garrett Wilson.
So Ben's like 4 guys ahead of
the
receiver.
And listen, if you've never seen Arthur Smith, tell Arthur Smith that the camera's on him. He got that deer in the headlight. Every time you see Arthur Smith, I'm like, what? Like, I don't get it every time you see him. But I will say this, Kevin. If you are in that front office, Kevin, if you are, GM Kevin Thomas, when you need everything, I don't think you can mess it up because you need whatever you get. Whatever you get. Now, whoa, unless you get a running back, then they're going to be, what? They're not gonna do that. But I
will melt down if it's a running back in the top 10. But look, I will look at this and say, look, to me, I feel like Kyle Hamilton in the slipping talk, if he's there, I think I'm going to say that's the pick because it's hard to project if they trade. To me, I still feel like the Falcons are a prime candidate to trade back and still get a great player, even if they go from 8 to say 12 in the draft, 12, 13 range in the draft bin. I will say the Falcons take Kyle Hamilton at number 8, though. Would not be surprised if they try to leverage somebody's number 1 and move back. To me, I just feel like if you can do it, that's the smart play for Atlanta at the end of the day. All right, Ben, again, we just talked about quarterbacks and, jumping up to take a guy. What do you think is the most overvalued position in the draft? Again, we see a lot of them go, maybe a little higher. What do you think teams overvalue when it comes to picking in a draft?
Teams overvalue the combine. And the thing about the combine,
from a player position standpoint, like what position do they just think way too much of going into the draft?
I mean, way too much in my opinion.
Just for me.
I know it's crazy. I mean, I think they overthink the quarterback position too much because the whole thing about it is, right? If you go to a quarterback store, every last quarterback has certain intangibles that you like, but they're not the same, right? And it's almost like, Kevin, they want you to fit a mold. Oh, well, he doesn't do this. Okay, well, he does that well. Well, he doesn't do that. Well, he does this well. Can he play the position? And I think the thing about the quarterback position is quarterback position are under the most scrutiny, Kevin, because Malik Willis said it. He goes, not only are you the face of the franchise, dude, you the face of that city, and you are. People start, man, we got, listen, I remember what Michael Vick meant to Atlanta, like what he meant, not just to the Falcons, but to the city, right? And he was exciting. Now, when it came time to win a pivotal game, because they're going, but I think that, Kevin, when it comes to the quarterback position is they looking at you hoping that you can become something they've seen before. Like, oh, can he become this player or that player? Like you said, if you're in Atlanta, no matter who comes, if they're a quarterback, you are replacing that guy. That's who you're replacing. And unfortunately for you, they want you to give that type of production. So for me, I think it always is the quarterback position because they expect these quarterbacks to do something they've never done. You expect the quarterback to go to Detroit and lift the spirits of Detroit. How? When? Nobody can do that. Or Cleveland. Or, so I think that too, Kevin, too, sometimes when it comes to these quarterbacks, if you're being honest, they expect you to do what you did for the college you was at. Only problem is, well, dude, most of the time I was the best player on the field. I might just be a player on the field now with the type of guys I'm going up against. So I think it's always going to be the quarterbacks because when quarterbacks win, Kevin, they get all the praise, and when they lose, they get all the blame.
I understand that. See, for me, I would say like wide receiver because, again, there's so many wide receivers. Now, again, there are exceptions to the rule. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, if Calvin Johnson's sitting there, I'm not going to draft him because he's overvalued. No, I mean, there's certain guys that break out of the mold. But I think on the whole, you see so many wide receivers for every one that comes in and is an immediate stud out of the first round. You see a couple that are kind of like, well, they were just all right. And I think when you look at this draft, there's going to be guys in the second round, third round, fourth round that are going to come in at the wide receiver spot and be a big time contributor. So I'm not putting it on the same level as running back where I really feel like, and BJ has pointed this out statistically, your best running back in the league to maybe like a top 30 running back. So your kind of first teamers is about, the spread is about a half a yard
per
carry. So it's like, hey, your best running back in the league is averaging on average about 1.5 foot more per carry than the 30th guy in the league. So I think you can get value later in the draft at running back, and we've seen that. I think there's going to come a day iteration of there's going to be a couple of really good ones, wide receiver that maybe you could get 10 to 15. But I really, especially this draft, I think there's going to be guys going, 32 to 50 that are really good. That'll be just as impactful. Maybe guys that go into third round that could be impactful players. And now that we've been kind of the emergence of a designated slot guy, it used to just be like, hey, you're Wayne Corbett, you're too small, so we're just going to put you in a slot. Well, we've seen Danny Amendola, guys like that, make careers out of doing what? I'm going to run 10 yards, I'm going to get open, and I'm going to fall down. Well, why are you falling down? Well, so this guy that weighs 250 doesn't murder me. So I'm going to catch the ball, I'm going to fall down. You go, well, where's the explosion? I'm moving the chains. And I'm becoming a Pro Bowl player. Why? Because I'm going to catch 100 balls all at 10 to 12 yards, and I'm going to fall down. My yards after the catch is going to be awful, but you know what? When we need a catch, they're coming to me. And those are guys you could get, Ben, 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Well, this guy's only 5'10". Nope. You know what? But he can get open. Mm-hmm. He can catch a 7-8 yard pass and extend it to 10 and fall down, and you've got yourself a first down, move the chains. He's going to be hard to cover. I think you're seeing more of a specialization as well of wide receiver. And yeah, the guys that are tall and run 4.2s, they're always going to be at a premium. I mean, I get it. They're going to be at a premium,
which is still really rare. I've seen
those guys. Yeah, you can run fast. You're tall in a straight line, but if you can't get open and you can't catch, that could be a problem. So I think wide receiver gets overvalued because you say, man, that guy's 6'4" and ran a 4.3. Can he get open?
Yep.
If he can't, Al Davis. He had quite a few of those guys. He's the tallest, fastest guy in the draft. And he's out of the league.
Yeah. Only in the draft, Darius Hayward-Bay gets drafted over, Michael Crabtree, and I'm like, because they fast. But I do think you make an interesting point, Kevin. When you start talking, it goes back to the variety. It used to be a time to where they're trying to make you something you're not. I've played in the slot my whole life, not my whole career. My whole life. All of a sudden, when I get drafted, you move it to the outside, and guys like Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey and Stephon Gilmore, and Javon Diggs gonna be. Come on, man! I can get over on those guys. Everybody has a specialty in the National Football League. Every single player, they drafted you for what you do. They draft you if you a Bosa and Chase Daniels, they draft you to get around that edge. If you Jordan Davis, they drafted you to clog up the middle. If you Nakobe Dean, they drafted you to be a heat-seeking missile to hit everything that moves. If you Tom Brady, right, coming out of Michigan, they know you're gonna have to play the quarterback position the best because you lack mobility with your feet. But then if you Michael Vick, they want you to be sensational as far as like being exciting. If you Cam Newton, I want you to look like Tarzan and play like Tarzan, which he did. So I do think when you think about these receivers, Kevin, Cooper Kupp might be the best of them all, right? And let's call it what it is. You don't want to give him his just dues because he's a white guy. Just call it what it is. I mean, that because Calvin Johnson was
saying there's guys throughout the draft that could come in at the receiver position and make plays for you. And I think you get so caught up in like, well, this guy's not. There is value to be found at the wide receiver spot, not just in the top 20 picks. I mean, I think that's one where you overvalue, and I think could be seen as a running back. Why do I need to spend a top 5 pick on a running back when I can get a guy that's pretty close in production in the 3rd round? I think the same could be said potentially for the wide receiver spot.
But Kevin, think about this. That's like somebody saying, man, he look like Calvin Johnson. You know, somebody say, don't start that. What?
No, but I'm not saying there's not exceptions to the rule. Calvin Johnson, of course. That's like, yeah, draft him too.
But what I'm saying is when you talk about being super productive, right? Super productive, right? Jarvis Landry coming out of LSU is a slot receiver. He averages like a little over 11 yards a catch. He's been in the league 8 years. He has almost 700 catches. Right now, but if you don't catch nothing, I got almost 700 catches. But you know what? But you know what the thing is? He's never been on a winning franchise. Miami, Cleveland. I'm still too productive. See, the problem is you got really, really good players on really, really bad teams, and they still producing. You don't think that matters? Matthew Stafford, he goes out to LA for 1 year, they win the Super Bowl. He been there for 1 year. So I do think, Kevin, when you think about receivers, I want a guy that's 5'10". Tyreek Hill 5'10". Now he's lightning fast, but he's 5'10". Then you got 5'11", 6'1". You got guys like like Evans down there with Tampa Bay. 1,000-yard receivers every year he been in the league. You got Devontae Adams, who I don't know how fast he is, but I know he come wide open. So I just think for me, I want the variety, Kevin. I don't want to. Calvin Johnson is great and he is the truth. I need another guy that don't do what he does. I don't need two. I would take two Calvins, but I only need one. And then you give me somebody else. The best way to look at it is when they had Roddy White, Julio Jones, Harry Douglas. Roddy White is your number one. Julio Jones is your freak. Harry Douglas is in the slot. That's all you need. You know, this notion of, hey, man, the greatest receiver of all time did not go to Ohio State. He did not go to Georgia. He did not go to Michigan. He went to Mississippi Valley State. And he ran like a 4.6. And he has 200 career touchdowns. That would be Jerry Rice. So all I'm saying is, like you say, Kevin, I don't care how you look. Can you run fast? Can you stop, start, get open consistently? Because if not, for guys that run real fast and can't stop, they're called track athletes. Go over there and do that. I need a guy that can put on some pads and get open.
We've got more to come here. It's 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here. 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop. We're going to be live at Coach's Corner tomorrow. Hope you'll come out and join us. Have some great food. Talk draft with us. We're going to be having a little draft fun as well with the top 10. Give us your top 10 picks, and whoever gets the most correct will win a tremendous prize. Again, we're talking you get a correct answer. Whoever you say goes 6 actually goes 6. Just saying that for an example. So give us your top 10. Whoever gets the most, I'm going to win that 70-inch flat screen television. Going to have a lot of fun there at Coach's Corner tomorrow. SEC, man, has dominated this thing, and tomorrow expect to have a lot of Georgia guys go. Georgia expect to have the most players from one school taken in the draft. And went and looked, it's been over a decade now since anybody, I think getting close to 2 decades, since anybody has had more players taken in the draft other than the SEC. Ben, why do you think that is? And again, I'm not here to say, hey, SEC, but there's talent at Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State and all of that. Is it better coaching? Is it just simply they're getting better talent that then obviously progresses into it? How come nobody has had a better draft weekend than the SEC in like nearly 2 decades?
I think, Kevin, it comes down to the product on the field, right? I mean, it's not as if the product on the field. I mean, we talk about next year's draft, right? Who's the headliner in 2023? That would be Bryce Young. What college does he go to? Oh, he goes to Alabama, right? We talk about Evan Neal, who's supposed to be the potential number 1 over Alabama. We talk about Georgia, who's going to set the record for the most players in the draft. The SEC. We talk about Matt Corral, SEC. We talk, and the list goes on and on, Kevin. When you can't talk about the best, either number 1, number 2, or number 3 position in the country without mentioning an SEC player. That's what it is. And you're right. It's not to say that the other players around the country, but it's the marketing, Kevin. Like you said, we start saying, look, there's a lot of conferences out there. People go, ACC, I don't know what that is. So most people do. Big 10, Pac-12, Big 12. You start saying SEC because people identify names with players and coaches and brands. Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, okay. Nick Saban, okay. Kirby Smart. And so I think, Kevin, what it goes is it's like this. There are products out there that you ain't never bought, but you know them if you see them. That's the SEC. It's the best product in college football because they market it the best, right? We're going to be at SEC Media Days this year, and it's going to be crazy because of how they market the freaking thing. And it's not as if the players aren't incredible. Joe Burrow, LSU. Jamar Chase, LSU. Justin Jefferson, LSU. And these are arguably the top 2 young wide receivers, in the National Football League, right? I think it's one of those things, Kevin, we like this. You want to get you one before you criticize. Hey, man, you better get you one.
Again, I'm just saying it doesn't. And with Oklahoma and Texas coming in, it's not going to end anytime soon.
Yeah.
You're talking about the totality of the draft. Like, I get the SEC has had top end talent, but you start looking at the depth, and it's like just from the sheer number of players drafted, the SEC's had more every single year than any other conference. And I think the ACC's come close once or twice within a few players. Most of the time, everybody's 9-10 players back. It's just amazing you get, and really where you find it is not that the great players from the Big Ten aren't going. No, they are. It's in rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, where you just see guys from the SEC just get pulled left and right, and the depth of that league. But I'm just amazed that again, not once in like the last 15 years has another conference like, hey, the SEC only had 43. Well, that's still a great number. Okay, they had 43 players, and this year the Big Ten had 44. Like, not once has that happened from another conference. I mean, it goes to show you what the SEC has developed, as you said, but I was just trying to look for, is there a one factor that you can?
No. I mean, it's the perception, Kevin. You know what it is.
I get it.
The perception of the SEC is far greater than the SEC. I mean, far greater than the actual reality of the SEC is. But I mean, the thing is, too, Kevin. If somebody goes, hey, man, Kevin, you just became a GM. I mean, I want to pick a tackle. I got a tackle from Alabama. I'm going. Okay, I'm gonna go here. Or I got a quarterback. From LSU. Or Ole Miss. Okay, boom. Because what starts happening is, Kevin, like I said, the top cornerback in the draft, he might be Sauce Gardner, right? Who they got at number 2? Derek Stingler. Who they got at number 3 or 4? Kyrie Elam. You see what I'm saying? You can't go that far without. They might not be the number 1 player. They might not be. but they're gonna be the number 2 or number 3. And I just think that what starts happening is, Kevin, we are creatures of habit. No one wants to be that draft to say, oh, we went against the grain and we made the Big Ten or the Pac-12. But I will say this, a lot of it has to do with who was the last team standing most of the time? Team in the SEC. Now, Clemson has done it, but most of LSU, Georgia, Alabama, that stuff matters because most people that don't even watch college football will watch the national championship. Most people that don't watch baseball will watch the World Series. Who's the last team standing? Well, last year was these boys from the ATL. So I think, Kevin, that has a lot to do with it too, because it's like this. I don't watch golf. I watch Tiger Woods. There's a difference. I don't watch golf. I don't watch football. I watch Alabama, and it's because Nick Saban and that brand. So I just think that the brand equity in the SEC is what pushes it and guess what, Kevin? You know it's gonna be in Vegas. How many times they gonna say that what you just said? The SEC, they've had the most they got the quota. We got to say at least 35 times for people to get it. But Kevin, at the end of the day, would you blame them if they say, hey man, the SEC gonna have the most players? All right. Like I can live with that.
No, I 100% get it. I've argued on this show. If you're Jacksonville back in the Shaq Harris days of general managing, and I was like, why are we trying to draft guys from Nebraska, Omaha, when you have dudes from the SEC right here in your backyard? I 100% get it. I'm just amazed that not once has another conference in the last 15 years just happened to have a run of players where they could have more than the SEC, because as we know, the NFL doesn't really care where you play, but they want great players, and by and large, they know where to go to get them, and they're going to the SEC time and time again to get great players. We got more to come here on this Wednesday. It's 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on this Wednesday. Thanks for making us a part of your day. We'll be live at Coach's Corner tomorrow for the draft. Really looking forward to that. We got the Braves coming up tonight as well against the Cubs. Been a win tonight. If Charlie Morton can get it done, I will put the Braves with their first series win officially of the year, and still with a game 3 tomorrow. But you like to go ahead and get that out of the way and secure a series win if you could, and try to get something rolling here before potentially who comes back next Monday.
Listen, I be listening around town, Kevin. People always asking me, is that a Braves hat? Let me tell y'all something right now. That's all I wear. If I got on a fitted, it's an A-Town fitted. Now, I'm going to have on some nice ones. But, Kevin, like I say, there is no panic level over here. This Braves team, Kevin, can go out there and win their first series. I know Rosario going to be out for some months. I know Ronald this time next week, boy. Woo! Oh, Ronnie going to be back in the building. So I just think that, Kevin, it's a slow and steady approach. Stay consistent. Charlie Morton understands how to go out there and get it done. And I just think this team is still trying to find their rhythm. We expect the team. I don't know at what point a team has a rhythm in the season. I know it's not, after the first 20-some-odd games. I know it takes longer than that. But, Kevin, they still got a lot of the season left. They're going to be just fine. Charlie, go out there and handle your business. Bullpen, handle your business. And listen, when it comes to this lineup, start showing why you should be putting fear in these opposing pitchers. Somebody go out there and get the ball rolling. And for Dansby Swanson's sake, my goodness, sir, please get a hit, get on base, and maybe, you can try to start, playing your way out of this slump.
Yeah, I think that would be a good sign. Again, you're going up against Mark Leiter tonight, ERA up over 11. So maybe an opportunity to get some more runs going tonight. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the baseball, about how it's dead and it hadn't been flying as far, and pitchers don't like it, and that's why guys are getting hit with the baseballs. And I know the Cardinals and Mets have been fighting the last couple of days. So again, be a nice opportunity to go out and try to score some runs off a guy that's obviously off to a slow start. But man, I know the countdown is on. If Acuna's back on Monday in time for those nasty Mets, and go give the Mets a little sour taste of 1-3 up there in the nation's capital.
Hey, listen, I'm just looking forward to it, Kevin. At the end of the day, get a dub, Ronald. We'll see you next week, sir.
Appreciate Emory Hunt joining us. Fred Owens joining us as well. Braves and Cubs will have pregame coverage coming up in 7 minutes right here. We'll see you tomorrow from Coach's Corner on 3 and Out.